While the African Union continues to condemn the ongoing war in Sudan, various solutions have been tabled. One recommends that former President Thabo Mbeki be brought in to broker peace between the two fighting sides. But concerns have been raised about whether there can be any peaceful resolutions. Let's get you some analysis now. Bring you Africa Analyst Adv Sipho Mantula, who joins us via our video link this morning. Advocate Mantula, it's great to have you on the program. That really has been the discussion, hasn't it? Whether either side, whether either side is actually willing and whether there is a will to end this war.
Refresh morning and Jambo Africa, Michelle, to your viewers. I think it is very important what you said, that we don't need only political will, but we need a military commitment from both forces, because this is a military exercise that it is entering the third week today. We are marking 21st day of this conflict. But also when you look at the envoys, remember that Sudan has been excommunicated from the AU processes for almost 5 years, since 2019. So if one looks at this military processes of sending the envoy, but what is important is the permanent ceasefire, not what we saw this week of saying that there will be the ceasefire for the coming 7 days. Southern Sudan wants to mediate, Egypt wants to mediate. So we see a complex of many countries involved in the Sudan question, but behind it seems that we are not getting into the core and the grasp of that. What is currently happening also is a humanitarian crisis. We have seen evacuations happening. There is a challenge also of what I call deficit of African democracy and African mediation. Also African intelligence coming out to lead us, because it appears that we are living with the American servers of intelligence. We are living with European intelligence servers telling us about Sudan, when we know that Sudan has been brewing since the removal of Bashir. But also the two generals, they were very close to Omar al-Bashir. That's one thing that we need to navigate, decipher clearly, to say, are these generals proxies also? Because Bashir has been moved out of Khartoum also, he's in a military hospital. But these are the factors that the envoy resolutions and meetings that have been happening, megaphone diplomacy that we have been seeing in the crisis of Khartoum, one will assume that the neighboring countries are at a better place to can mediate. Yeah,
I mean, even this latest 7-day truce, which would have begun yesterday, so today is day 2, it saw fighting erupt almost immediately, just like many other ceasefires in the past as well. In fact, one of the envoys that you talk about say that there had only been an agreement to a ceasefire, but not to mediation regarding a resolution to the conflict. Just on the face of it, the facts before us, why would there be this lack of will to want to end this? In whose favor is it if this war continues?
You know, this is very sad, because remember, Michelle, that the main issue is that even last year when the both forces had to agree on military integration, and also the issue of return of civilian rule, one of the sticky issues, I think, to whose benefit, basically saying it is the Sudanese who are at the receiving end. And also, when I talk of Sudanese, we are talking of the Nubian women and children and women from different regions. These are the people whom they were supposed to taste this freedom post Bashir removal. But secondly, also, it is what is holding the two generals also. It is that most of them, they will be facing the ICC or what we can call the African human rights processes, because definitely after we have seen many people being killed, many people leaving the capital city, it is also raising the issues of transitional justice. Will Sudan also have a transitional justice process? Because I hear all of us who want to pursue the military intervention, want to pursue military talks. But I think what is at the core also is the role of the academics in that country, the role of the workers that has been left out. But one looks at that the two generals are also having this appetite of power, when actually they are not supposed to be there. They should have return to the barracks and allow civilian rule. We know Michel Hamdok, as a former prime minister, tried. And I think last week he has echoed that it appears that this conflict will be worse than Syria if we don't attend to it.
Is it down to the fact that both sides in this war essentially believed that they could win if it came down to a military confrontation?
No, definitely. Everybody looks at his military capability, but I also remember on my intro, I spoke about the alliances, the foreign countries, the neighboring countries who have been alleged to be supporting both forces. Then one asks, why are we having this proxy war in the Sudan soil? And also when you look at the Rapid Support Force, that these are paramilitaries that they also wanted to be integrated into the army. And we know how Sudan is history of military coups. It's history also of military wars. That most of the instances, whether there is a win or lose, I picked up one of the Darfur rebel leaders was saying, it is not the one who will win this war, when actually it will not go to the core of the Sudanese crisis and the Sudanese developmental issues. So that's where one looks that it is not win or lose, but it is for the military to retreat and also go on a process of DDR, disarm, and also integrate into the new Sudan force. Because what we have been struggling is that the new Sudan that John Garang once spoke about, the late president of the South Sudan, he spoke about the new Sudan that will include the issues of dealing with militarization of power. He spoke also about the unity and the identity of the Sudanese towards progress. So if one looks, the military seems it has lost sight of what Sudan has been going through. Not forgetting, Michelle, also that Sudan is also having a conflict with Ethiopia over the Nile River. Sudan also borders Libya, which is troubled some. Sudan borders the Sahel region. So if one looks at the implication of these generals when they embark on this war, it has already has what I call a spillover to the region.
Yeah. There's been condemnation from the UN, from the AU. There's now a suggestion that former President Thabo Mbeki be brought in to broker peace between these two fighting sides. Advocate Mantula, very quickly, on that last proposal, do you think that that will bear any fruit?
No, definitely. Remember, former President Thabo Mbeki has what I call institutional memory. He's got the server and the data of understanding the Sudan crisis from Darfur. He was part of the high-level panel on Sudan post the South Sudan independence in 2011. So one will assume that bringing the former head of state and the eminent person like of President Thabo Mbeki, it will bring sanity to this process. He do understand this process. And remember last month also, he echoed the same sentiments of a permanent ceasefire and also return of civilian rule. So one will assume that with this knowledge and wisdom, he will be able to assist the Sudanese. And also, like we have said, it's a tripartite mediation that we see from the UN, the AU, and IGAD. And also not forgetting the influence of the Arab League in this process. And the foreign powers that I have mentioned, whether USA, whether Russia, whether UK, all these countries also have an interest because of the natural resources of Sudan.
Advocate Sipho Mantula is an Africa analyst as we continue to track this story. Advocate Mantula, thanks very much indeed for joining us.